Okay, so have you ever been there? Mid-sentence, and the perfect word just poof, it's gone.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling where you know what you want to say, the idea is crystal clear.
Right, but the word itself is just like hiding somewhere.
Yeah.
Feels just out of reach.
Or maybe you've been listening to someone who speaks and they're just so eloquent, effortless.
Yeah, exactly. Painting vivid pictures with their words. You just wonder, what's their secret?
Well, I'd say more often than not, it really comes back to vocabulary.
Vocabulary, the absolute building blocks of language, right?
Fundamentally, yes. Without a good, accessible word bank, even really profound thoughts can feel kind of trapped, struggling to get out.
That makes sense. And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. Really getting to grips with your English vocabulary.
We're planning to unpack its role, look into some distinctions that aren't always obvious.
And most importantly, equip you with some solid strategies. These are drawn from a really comprehensive resource we looked at.
The mission today is to give you that solid foundation.
It's exactly. To help you boost your English word power, speak more confidently, write more clearly. All of it.
So let's dive right in.
Okay, let's cut to the chase then. What is vocabulary at its core? Because it feels like it's got to be more than just, knowing a bunch of words.
It really is. I mean, basically, your vocabulary is all the words you know and use in English. Every word you read, hear, speak, or write. Simple enough on the surface.
But there's a catch.
Well, our source makes this really crucial distinction. It often surprises people. There aren't just one, but sort of two main types of vocabulary working inside us.
Two types.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds like it could change how you approach learning things. Tell me more.
So first up, we have what's called receptive vocabulary.
Receptive, okay.
These are all the words you recognize. You understand them when you hear them or when you see them written down. You get the meaning in context.
But you might not use them yourself.
Exactly. You might not actively pull them out when you're talking or writing. They're kind of appreciated from a distance.
Got it. And the second type?
That's productive vocabulary. These are the words you can actually retrieve, pull from your mental dictionary and use correctly when you speak or write.
Ah, okay. So those are the words you actively wield, the tools you use.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it.
So let me see if I've got this. I might hear someone use a word like exquisite to describe something beautiful, and I totally understand it. No problem there.
Right. That's receptive.
But if I've never actually used exquisite in my own sentence, if it doesn't just pop into my head when I need it, it's still just sitting there in my receptive pile.
That's it. Exactly. It hasn't made that jump yet.
From passive to active.
And that really is the core challenge. It's also the ultimate goal if you want to improve your fluency. You want to transform those receptive words
into productive ones.
Yeah.
Move them from just recognizing them to actually using them.
Yes. And that naturally leads to the question, how do we actually do that? How do we make that shift happen?
Which I guess brings us straight to the why. Why does this distinction and vocabulary in general matter quite so much? Our source calls it the heart of communication. That feels big. Especially when grammar gets so much attention.
It is big and it's foundational because vocabulary is the actual substance of what you're trying to say. Think about it like this.
Okay.
You could, theoretically, have perfect English grammar, master every tense, every structure. But if you don't have the specific words you need for your idea,
you're still stuck. You can't express the nuance.
Exactly. You'll struggle. But what's really interesting, and our resource highlights this, is that the reverse can often be true. Meaning, even if your grammar isn't, let's say, 100% perfect, a strong, precise vocabulary can often carry you through. It compensates.
So people will still understand your core message because you use the right words, even if the sentence structure is a bit wobbly.
Precisely. They'll get the meaning because you provided the right content words. That makes so much sense. It's like vocabulary are the bricks for a building. Grammar is the structure, the blueprint, maybe the mortar holding it together.
That's a perfect analogy.
But without the bricks, the words, there's just nothing to build with. You can have the best blueprint, but no building appears.
Exactly right. And the practical benefits for you, the listener, are huge. A rich vocabulary lets you be way more precise. Your message lands better.
You can be more persuasive too, I imagine.
Definitely. And more expressive, conveying emotions, details, complex thoughts. It helps you sound more fluent naturally, more confident.
Well, professional even.
Without a doubt. It directly impacts your ability to really share your thoughts, connect with people. Our source even suggests a strong link to critical thinking.
How so?
Well, having more words gives you more mental tools to categorize things, to analyze, to synthesize information. It's not just about output, but input and processing too.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just speaking better, it's potentially thinking better too. That's
Right.
quite compelling.
It is. So, if we know what it is, why it's vital, how does this affect how we actually learn words? Because like you said, there are different types. Not all words are the same, and maybe focusing on categories helps.
It absolutely does. Breaking vocabulary down into types makes the whole process much more strategic. You can target your learning based on your specific needs and goals.
Okay, let's break that down then. What are the common types we should know about?
Well, the source lays out a few key ones. First, you've got your everyday vocabulary. Pretty self-explanatory.
Like book, walk, happy, the basics.
Exactly. The words you use constantly, day in, day out, the foundation. You pick these up naturally, mostly.
Got it. What's next?
Then there's academic vocabulary. These are crucial for studying, for research, for exams. Think words like analyze, evaluate, hypothesis, contrast.
More formal, specific to education.
Right. And learning these isn't just about sounding smart in an essay. It's often essential for understanding the material itself. They can have very precise meanings in context.
Makes sense. And related to that, I guess, is
Business vocabulary. Spot on. Terms used in the professional world. Deadline, negotiations, strategy, ROI. Precision here can really matter for your career.
definitely. Okay, what about the other end of the spectrum? More casual stuff?
Yep, that brings us to slang and informal vocabulary. Words like chill, cool, hang out, awesome.
Stuff you use with friends.
Exactly. Highly context dependent, changes fast sometimes. The real trick is knowing when it's okay to use them and when it's definitely not.
Good point. And it's not just single words, is it? English has all those phrases.
You're way ahead of me. That leads to idioms and phrasal verbs. Expressions where the meaning isn't literal. Break the ice, give up, look forward to.
Things that can really trip learners up because the meaning isn't obvious from the parts.
Very true. They add native light color, but yeah, they can be opaque. Understanding the meaning is one thing, using them naturally is another.
And there was one more category, wasn't there?
Yeah.
About words that just go together.
Ah, yes, collocations. This is a big one for sounding natural. These are words that just habitually appear together, like you make a decision, not do a decision.
Or strong coffee, not usually powerful coffee.
Precisely. Or heavy rain. Learning these word partnerships makes your English sound much smoother, more fluent. It's about learning words in their typical company.
Okay, understanding these categories seems super helpful. It lets you focus your energy. If you're prepping for an exam, you hit the academic list. If you're moving for work, business terms.
Exactly. It makes the huge task of learning vocabulary feel more manageable. You create a path based on your why. It turns that vast ocean of words into navigable currents.
Work smarter, not just harder.
That's the idea. Efficiency.
All right, this is all great background, but now, the big one. The million-dollar question. How do you actually improve your vocabulary? It can feel like climbing a mountain sometimes. What really works?
Yeah, it can feel daunting. But our source lays out 6 really powerful practical strategies. Stick with these consistently and you will see results.
Okay, lay them on us. Tip number 1.
First, and maybe the most fundamental, read every single day.
Just read anything.
Pretty much. Books, articles, news websites, blogs, whatever interests you. Reading constantly exposes you to new words. Crucially, in context.
So you see how they're used, which helps you guess the meaning sometimes.
Exactly. You absorb them more naturally. It's like a gentle, continuous immersion.
Okay, read daily. Got it. What's tip number 2?
Keep a vocabulary journal. Don't just look up a word and forget it. Write it down.
Okay.
Note its meaning, maybe its pronunciation if that helps. And critically, write an example sentence using it. Make it relevant to you.
That active step of writing it down, using it, that helps lodge it in your brain.
It really does. It starts moving it from that receptive pile towards the productive one. Our source also suggests learning words in chunks or phrases, not just isolation.
Like learning make a decision together.
Yes, it's often much more effective.
I can see that. Trying to shoehorn a single new word into a sentence can feel awkward. A phrase feels more natural. Okay, tip 3.
Third, use spaced repetition apps. Things like Anki, Quizlet, Memorize. There are loads.
How do they help specifically?
They use algorithms based on how memory works. They show you a word or phrase just before you're likely to forget it.
Oh, clever. So it reinforces the memory at the optimal time.
Exactly. It combats the forgetting curve. It's like a personalized digital flashcard system that adapts to you. Very efficient for memorization.
Cool. Number 4.
Fourth, watch English content, movies, TV series, podcasts like this one, YouTube videos.
More immersion.
Yes, but specifically listening practice. You hear words used naturally in conversation with intonation, emotion, and often visual context cues. You pick up pronunciation and flow.
And you start to notice how people actually use the words, not just the dictionary definition.
Precisely. Pay attention to usage.
Okay, 5th tip. This one feels like it might be the key.
It's definitely crucial. Practice using the words. You absolutely have to integrate the new vocabulary into your own speaking and writing.
Get them out of the notebook and into the real world.
Yes. Don't just let them sit there collecting dust. Try using them. Make mistakes, it doesn't matter. Stumble a bit, but use them.
That's the real leap from receptive to productive, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's the difference between knowing about a tool and actually picking it up and using it to build something. Application is key.
Right. I remember trying to force the word serendipitous into every conversation for a week after I learned it. Probably sounded unnatural.
But that struggle, that active effort probably helps cement it for you.
It definitely did.
Oh.
Okay, and the final tip, number 6.
Lastly, group words by themes. Learn related words together. For example, learn a set of words about travel or food or emotions or technology.
Why does that help?
Because our brains naturally make connections and categorize information. Learning related words together taps into that natural process, creating mental links that make recall easier.
Like building a mental map.
Sort of, yes. It provides structure.
Okay, so read daily, keep a journal, use spaced repetition, watch content, practice using words, and group by themes. That's a solid toolkit.
It really is.
And the big takeaway seems to be, don't just passively memorize definitions. You have to apply them.
100%. The more you use a word actively, the more it becomes truly yours. It shifts from being a piece of data to being a functional tool in your communication kit.
That active application is non-negotiable for real mastery.
It's where the learning really sticks.
Now, before we wrap this up, it's probably worth mentioning things to avoid. Common mistakes learners make. Traps we can fall into that might slow down progress.
Absolutely. Knowing the pitfalls is just as important as knowing the strategies. Our resource highlights 5 common ones.
Okay, mistake number 1.
Learning too many words at once. It's tempting to try and cram, but your brain has limits on how much new info it can effectively absorb short term.
Quality over quantity.
Definitely. Better to learn, say, 5 words really well than 50 words poorly that you'll forget by next week. Overwhelm leads to forgetting.
Makes sense. Mistake number 2.
Closely related. Not reviewing old words. Vocabulary learning isn't a one-and-done thing. You need regular, systematic review. Otherwise, even words you learned recently will just fade away.
So it's not just about adding new bricks, but checking the mortar on the old ones too. Keep reinforcing.
Exactly. Continuous maintenance. 3rd mistake.
What's number 3?
Memorizing definitions without example usage. We touched on this, but it's a big one. A definition alone doesn't tell you how to use a word correctly. Its connotations, the words it likes to hang out with.
The collocations we talked about.
Right. Without seeing it in context, in real sentences, you risk using it awkwardly or incorrectly, even if you know the basic meaning.
Context is king. Okay, number 4.
4th is avoiding complex or big words out of fear. While starting simple is smart, deliberately shying away from more sophisticated words forever limits your ability to express complex ideas precisely.
Don't be afraid to stretch yourself a bit.
Exactly. Challenge yourself occasionally. Aim higher over time.
And the last one, number 5. Feels like it connects back to practice.
It does, directly. The 5th mistake is not speaking or writing enough. If you don't actively try to produce language using the words you're learning,
They stay stuck in that receptive zone.
precisely, they remain passive knowledge. The act of trying to use them, even if imperfectly, is what forces your brain to integrate them into your active, productive vocabulary. Production cements learning.
So avoid the overwhelm, keep reviewing, focus on usage, not just definitions, don't fear complexity, and crucially, speak and write as much as possible.
That's the recipe for avoiding common pitfalls.
Got it. So the overall message is pretty clear. Avoid these mistakes, stay consistent with the strategies, be patient. vocabulary growth takes time.
It does. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but it's an investment that pays off hugely.
Absolutely worth every second. It impacts everything.
Every single aspect of your communication, and maybe even how you think.
So wrapping this deep dive up, vocabulary isn't just about collecting words like stamps. It's about owning them.
It really is, transforming them from passive things you recognize into active tools you can pull out and use whenever you need them.
And the more words you truly own and can use well, the more clearly, the more powerfully you can speak, write, and just connect with people in English.
It lets you express complex ideas, subtle feelings, paint much more vivid, precise pictures with your language. It's incredibly empowering.
And speaking of vivid pictures, here's something to think about as you continue building your word power. Consider this. How often do you find yourself using the same few words over and over again? Like maybe you always say good or nice.
We all have our defaults.
Exactly. Our source hinted at the power of synonyms and antonyms. Think about how understanding the relationships between words, not just the words themselves, can make your communication so much richer.
Knowing the subtle differences between similar words or their direct opposites.
Yeah. It helps you avoid repetition and add real vibrancy. So the challenge for you, the listener, is how might you intentionally add a bit more color to your everyday vocabulary this week? Maybe just pick one common word you overuse.
And find 2 or 3 interesting synonyms for it.
Exactly. Look them up, see how they're used, and then consciously try to use one of them instead. Just stretch that expressive range a little. Give it a try.